Hey everyone, yes, it's actually me. Please excuse me for staying absent for so long. It's just that I do not have that much material to work with, and in addition to that, I messed up the recording during 3 flights in a row, which really frustrated me. But I decided it has to go on one day or another. So let's hop right into this review. This time I'll be showing you the economy class product on the smallest and the business class product on the biggest plane Austrian Airlines is operating between European countries. The first leg led me from Berlin to Vienna and the second one from Vienna to Frankfurt, so 2 very short flights all things considered. I just found the contrast quite interesting, so stay tuned. Pretty close to my gate, I saw the 787-8 from Scoot and a -9 variant from North Atlantic standing by. Unfortunately, Scoot decided to cease all operations between Singapore and Berlin from March 28th. So this already not so long-haul heavy airport lost another direct connection to a far distant destination. That's kinda sad. Well, excuse me, Eurowings A320? Anyway, it's time to finally show you the plane that has the honor of carrying me and about another 119 people when fully booked. This is one of the 17 ERJ-195s that are currently in Austrian's possession. All of these come with a standard 2-2 configuration, and I set myself down in 22 Foxtrot this day. The specimens from Austrian are at an age of about 14 years on average, so pretty much what you can expect from a first-generation Embraer E-Jet. Alright, this is what the cabin looks like from my seat. This is what one of those seats look from the back, and first off, let's talk about legroom. To my disadvantage, and I'm about 186 centimeters / 6'1" tall, this configuration does not leave a lot of space for me, so I have definitely seen better. At least the lighting at this time of the day made the look outside a little prettier. Almost perfectly on time, our plane was pushed back and our journey began.
Card by your seat. For takeoff and landing, stow your carry-on baggage, laptops and other heavy items in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. If you are seated in the first row or in an emergency exit row, stow your carry-on baggage in the overhead bins only. Please be careful when opening the overhead bins, as items might fall out. In case of an emergency, you must leave all your carry-on baggage on board. Smoking and the use of electronic cigarettes is not permitted at any time.
Since this is Scoot's final appearance in Berlin for me, and the plane was even pushed back in the almost exact same moment as ours, I thought it might be a good reason to record extra footage. Actually, many people are hating on Scoot, and I think they partially deserve that, but the fact remains that for the people of Berlin, this was a pretty cool option to have. On the other hand, look at how tired this plane looks like. So apparently this is what low-cost, long-haul flying does to a plane over time. Anyway, I believe it's a good thing we had it, but now it's time to say goodbye. Lads and gents, prepare for departure. as we were airborne, I noticed that I forgot to make a seat tour on the ground, so here we go. The literature pocket contained a safety card, actually 2 different kinds of safety cards, which is interesting, a catalog for duty-free goods. The last item's flip, but it can only be one, and that's the Austrian Melangerie, which is basically the buy-on-demand menu. Right down below we have a very standard tray table and a seat back pocket. Above the seat, each passenger has access to an individual air vent, reading light, and a call button. Only one for 2 though. On shorter flights, Austrian doesn't offer those praised 7 types of coffee, but the regular coffee is no doubt the best I've ever had aboard a plane. Thing is, they don't use freeze-dried coffee powder, but instead just ground coffee beans, and the lid of this cup has a fine mesh that kinda acts as a filter. This was really nice. I was a bit surprised they don't offer you an Austrian branded piece of chocolate. This was nice though. As I took a look out of the window again, I noticed 2 planes that were flying in parallel. Not sure whether you can see the one that's a little farther behind, but anyway, I think that was a really cool thing to watch. You gotta say, the scenery whenever you approach the Alps is amazing and so damn beautiful. I mean, look at this. Especially for someone from the north of Germany, this is very cool because we have little to no mountains. Okay, I hope you're in for a little magic trick. I'ma turn this sunny and really beautiful scenery into a very gray and depressing wall of clouds. Watch this. Okay, I'm really sorry for that, but since I'm confident that there's still some joy left in you, I'd say let's just keep transitioning to the landing sequence. Alright, here we are at Vienna Airport, which is located next to Schwechat, which is a suburb just outside of Vienna. It's the first time I was able to take a look at Vienna myself, so I was really looking forward to this.
Yeah. seriously. Which I think is good because nobody needs to sit with the laptop and just sit. Super simple.
Yeah. Whatever you think is best time.
And this is Terminal 3, where all Star Alliance members fly in and out of. Looks very elegant and well designed at first glance. Okay, one side note here. If you ever visit Vienna, please think twice about purchasing a ticket for this. This is basically an express train between the airport and the city center, but seriously, the regular train doesn't take that long to get there and is way cheaper. After I spent a few hours exploring Vienna, I found myself back at the airport and in front of this big bird, a Boeing 777-200 from Austrian Airlines that's already over 20 years old. If you want to fly this on a short flight, you have to pay really close attention to the flight schedule, because Austrian is operating this bird about once or twice a week between Frankfurt and Vienna. But I was lucky and got a ticket for this flight. The business class comes in a changing 121 and 222 configuration. I chose 7 kilo for my seat of the day. One advice up ahead: if you're ever on a long-haul overnight flight on board this aircraft, you should choose one of the seats in the first row, and I'm gonna show you why in a second. Design-wise, I think I'm actually a fan because it's very minimalistic and I always appreciate that. The color palette ranges from a very light beige, most of the surfaces come in, the black screens and seats, some red elements such as the seat back pockets, and the brown floor. Okay, time for the seat tour, and this time while being on the ground. I've never saw a seat back with that many pockets. There's 2 of these red leather literature pockets. One of them is filled with the usual stuff. Okay, the air sickness bag was a little sunk in for some reason. You'll get 2 of these black mesh pockets. In between those you have the 15-inch HD screen. To the left is the second literature pocket. And to conclude the analysis of the seat back, we have 2 of those black leather pockets. Now, the reason I said you should get a seat in the first row whenever you have plans for sleeping on one of these flights, especially on overnight flights, is that there's simply not much room for your feet under those seats. If you're taller than 170 centimeters, you won't have a good time. Anyway, let's get to the front of the seat. This button makes the tray table jump out of its case. It's not impressively but reasonably big, but can't be moved forward or backward, so keep that in mind. Seat controls look like this and are pretty self-explanatory. And under this lid you have the good old remote control. Its top and the non-movable part next to it serve as comfortable armrest. Here's a closer look at the seat controls to give you an idea of your options. On this seat to your right you have the universal power outlet, a USB-A port and different audio ports, as well as an adjustable reading light. I need to mention one thing about the monitor. In order to wake it up, you cannot simply tap the monitor, you have to press the dedicated wake up button. Totally shocking, I know. I was a bit surprised that the seat belt, though the bulkiest I've ever seen on a plane, only covers the waist, which is not ideal in a business class where you have a lot of space in between the seats. The first action of the crew was to hand out those disinfecting wipes, but now it's time for the first roar. yeah, the wonderful GE90 engines. Who could judge anyone for loving those? Oh, and looky here, Austrian's A320neo, which I originally wanted to fly to Vienna. Damn you, flight schedule. I'm afraid you're now starting to see why I think I messed up on the recording. For starters, it wasn't actually quite as dark as it may look here. It's just that I had to edit the lighting in a way that it hopefully won't look that flickery. I'm really sorry for that. Oh, and here we have an A320ceo from Lauda Air, which is the successor to an airline privately owned by the Austrian racer Niki Lauda. It is now owned by Ryanair and its only operator of Airbus aircraft. Since only a short time before we're supposed to depart, the temperatures were dropping rapidly, we had to go through a de-icing process, which in this case is nice because then I'll be able to show it to you in, let's say, cinematic lighting conditions. There was actually quite a bit of a queue of aircraft, so from the gate to the runway took us about 40 minutes. But eventually, ready for departure. Okay, back to our seat, 3D flight map opened, and our meal service arrived. It was my first experience with dough and Coke catering, and I was pretty into it. As for my cold drink, I chose a Coke Zero. I had a really nice caramel pudding with half of a strawberry, a salad with a wild but well-composed combination of flavors, a hot bread roll alongside a piece of butter, and later on I also got a hot tea. They also provided metal cutlery and a cloth napkin. In terms of presentation and flavor, this was really nice. I just want to show you how to deal with the table again because it's a little specific. In order to bring it into position, you can't just slide it sideways, but you also have to jack it up a little. It's a bit trickier to put it back again, but luckily there's an instruction on the table itself. Contrary to how you get it out, you just have to press against the side of the table. It's obviously not rocket science, but I thought it might be better to show you. After the service was finished, I've had about half an hour for myself. Since no headphones were provided on a short flight like this, and the entertainment system couldn't be even manipulated actively, I just chose to chill a bit, settle down, look out of the window, and just enjoy this legendary civil aircraft. Then it was time for our landing in Frankfurt. here we are, back in Germany. So, what can I say? As for economy, I think Austrian has a very convincing economy product. Yes, on some of their aircraft, you really feel the urge for fresh seats, but let's take this out of the equation, especially since Austria is really trying their best to get new 787 Dreamliners to replace their entire 777 fleet, and also the remaining 767s, which aren't that many in service any longer. I think for flights within Europe, you could also tolerate not ideal seats with probably not the best legroom for you, so I'm not even that judging here. The crew on both flights were among the best within the Lufthansa group I've ever had. They were professional, engaging, friendly, and that was the most obvious difference, simply more smiley than some Lufthansa crews. So I can now see why some people prefer the Austrian crews over those of, let's say, Lufthansa or Brussels Airlines. The food was probably the best I've ever had on an intra-European flight, so although I just got a glimpse at what Doe & Co is obviously capable of, I'm now really looking forward to try out their catering on a long-haul flight. So overall, it was a very pleasant experience, and I will surely fly Austrian again. And if you're lucky and get the 777 on an intra-European flight in business class, or even in economy where you have access to the premium economy seats, although against a fee usually, then go for it. Okay, from now on, I'm trying my hardest to release at least one video a month, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and see you around.
Cabin crew, descent flight.